And there are two guys that stand out right now who the Raptors have been linked to, along with many other teams. It's Gradey Dick and Jordan Hawkins. Let's start with Gradey. How NBA ready do you think his shooting is? I'll start there.
I mean, the shooting's NBA ready, like
Yeah.
yesterday. That's what he does. He's a shooter. You know what I mean? Like he's
Mhm.
6'8". He's got a high release, smooth shot. I mean, he's been a really good shooter everywhere that he's been. He was a great shooter at Kansas this year. Like this is just a dude who is going to come in and at the very least, his one elite skill that he offers to an NBA team, and
Mhm.
that's shooting. A lot of guys, the jack of all trades kind of guys, you're like, oh yeah, but what do they do at an elite level? Grady has that. He is an elite NBA shooter, 40% from three, 85% from the line. Like, the outside of the 40%, the 85% from the free throw line, that's a really
Yeah.
encouraging sign too for like how he projects as a shooter in the long term. Those are the kind of markers that elite guys get to. So shooting, he's unquestionably ready to shoot from day one.
That's a beautiful thing. Darko, we know what he's been talking about over the past week or so since he's been introduced, and a lot of it has been about development. It's about players accepting roles and getting players to accept those roles in the greater perspective of the team. And what's cool about Grady is like, I know who I am. So how do you guys want to fit me in? And obviously, there are some things that he could probably do a little bit better as he continues to hone his skills and be more of a threat in the NBA. But the shooting is already there, and that's a great sign. And at 6'8", high release, he doesn't need much time to get it off. He relocates really well. His side steps, transition threes, it's all kind of there for him. But how soon do you think he'll be able to, when he does get chased off the line, how quickly will he be able to make those fast decisions where, okay, maybe he's got to make a pocket pass. Okay, maybe he's got to drive to the lane. And he's got to finish over a NBA big, not necessarily college big. Do you think that's probably his future, but how quickly can that happen?
When he does get run off the line, I think the thing that he does really well is step into like a one or two dribble like mid-range pull up.
Yeah.
Usually these 3-point shooters, you don't really think of their like in between game as a big part of it, but I do think that he has this really really advanced 1-2 dribble pull up where like he could
Mm-hmm.
be off balance, he could be like fading. A lot of times he'll go left, fade to the left, and because he's so um you know uh confident as a shooter. He could shoot uh, over defenders, and it's repeatable. It's smooth. I think he could bring that. That's easy. He's been doing that all the time. I think the passing. I mean, he got better throughout the course of the year. I don't think that he is a very high level playmaker, passer kind of guy. Maybe the
Mm-hmm.
NBA spacing will help him, but I think that one of the things that he does struggle with, and he struggled with dating back to high school, is the athleticism of and strength of defenders. And I think that having to make quicker reads in the midst of guys being able to reach over
Yeah.
quicker, get to spots quicker, I think that's going to be a work in progress. I don't ever really foresee him being a guy who's like a guy you would say is a plus passer in the sense that like he's going to run like high ball screens or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think that as a connective piece, he has that potential. But I do think that's something that is going to take a little bit more time than the shooting is, where he can come in and knock down a couple of shots, get hot really quick.
Yeah. And that's going to be probably his biggest asset. And that's going to be the reason why probably he's going to at least carve out some sort of role off the bench at the very least on whatever team he plays for. It's cool that the things that he's doing and things that he's running right now in college are going to be pretty similar probably to what he might do with the Toronto Raptors. Like you think about like a blind pig action where you have a big at the elbow, it's a backdoor cut, or it's maybe someone's top blocking you. You go back door, or maybe it's the other way around, and he has to come around a screen. And getting downhill with athleticism may take a little bit of honing necessarily, but you can project that he's going to probably get there. And just the size at 6'8" is such a difference maker from compared to a Jordan Hawkins, for instance. It's 3 inches, and the sight lines are very different up there as opposed to someone like Jordan.
You can't teach height.
No, you
you
can't.
know
You can't. You can't.
No, and I do think he has that going for him. So, even like with in regards to his finishing at the rim, I think when he's got a head of steam and a clear lane, like he's a little bit bouncier than he'll get credit for. I'm sure that he's going to be referred to as sneaky athletic at some point during his rookie season. But regardless, he needs to get stronger. If he is cutting off ball and Bam Adebayo's meeting him at the rim, it's
Yeah.
going to be a different scenario than some of the guys that he fared against in college. You know, I even dating back to high school, I remember when Sunrise Christian was playing IMG and Jarris Walker was waiting for him at the rim. He just kind of bailed and the ball went flying into the stands because he kind of got shook a little bit. So I think that the
Yeah.
athleticism in that regard is gonna kind of hamper his ability to get stuff at the rim early through contact and around defenders. But the height, and I think he's going to be able to put weight onto his frame.
Hmm.
I don't think he's going to be super bulky or anything, but like he's not like the guy who looks like he's going to be scrawny his whole life. I think he'll be strong enough to deal with some kind of physicality, and it'll be a process for him. It'll be something that he's going to have to willingly embrace and seek
Hmm.
out, but can't teach 6'8".
You can't, and his reason, his decision making, you have to think that that's going to get faster over time. And
Yeah,
with
reps.
the yeah, for sure, and with the Raptors and the system that I think they're going to want to play with the point five style, get off the ball quickly. I don't think Gradey is someone who wants to hold on to the ball very long, anyways.
No,
Like if it's not
no.
if the chance isn't there, then he's going to be moving on into the next action, and that's he really is like a natural fit. Both of the shooters are in some ways, but Gradey himself, because of the Raptors' size, is going to be he's well positioned to be a great Toronto Raptor just because of his shooting. And even if it is just be a spot up guy, he could probably do that too. But defensively, how is that going to look in the NBA in the early going?
Probably really bad.
Yeah.
In the early going, I would say really bad. Just because most rookies, even the ones who are good at defense, look pretty bad early on. Like you'll see signs, you'll see flashes. But it's the inconsistency of, having to, a lot of teams want to play point 0.5 basketball now. So,
Sure.
just like Toronto, a lot of these teams are swinging the ball around, have got multiple guys that could handle and are going to put you in pick and roll all over the court. So even the guys who could process that end of the ball really quickly tend to, come along slowly on that end because
Yeah.
there's a lot going on in NBA offenses. Gradey, this is a guy who's never going to be someone you go, this is our lockdown guy. Let's put him on our best defender.
Hmm.
So I think he's going to struggle at the beginning of his career. And, if the Raptors are going to be a team that can live with that early on, and obviously, having the whole squad be 6'9" and switchable will, I think, help him. Maybe you could hide him, and that'll be the goal early.
Yeah.
But he's going to get targeted, and I think teams will find that he's maybe a little bit better on the ball on an island than he's given credit for, but also they're going to put him in ball screens, and that's where I think he's going to have a lot of issues
Yeah.
with a lot of these quick, shifty, strong NBA guards.
Yeah, 6'8", 205 is where he's at right now. Not bad numbers necessarily, but the athleticism, getting around screens, like it's just a lot harder, right? And if
Yeah,
you're not already the best at shuffling your feet, that could be a problem for you. Jordan Hawkins, on the other hand, is a bit of a different story, which we'll get to in a second. But in among other NBA shooters that we've seen, like think of like a Kyle Korver, for instance. No, I'm just not naming another white guy for the hell of it. A CJ Miles, you know, those guys are able to, in different ways, they're able to carve out a role that was a little bit more than just a spot up shooter, just a moving guy. And they were able to do that through years of practice, years of honing. So do you think Gradey could be that in 5 years? Is he just a movement shooter, or is there something like we've seen from Duncan Robinson in these playoffs where we're like, okay, he's putting the ball on the floor. Okay, he's getting to the rim. He's finishing over some bigs. He's making those pocket passes. He's recognizing where the help is, and he's finding the open man. Is that where he can get to? Does he have that IQ already?
I think he is more like Duncan than like a Corver type. Because
Okay.
like Duncan's a good movement shooter, but he's also not like running laps around the court like Kyle Korver was. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the ways that they use Duncan will be like, maybe they'll run him off floppy stuff and he could choose what direction, but it's like preordained, and he might come off a DHO and he can make a quick decision or attack down him. But it's all like within the set, within the offense. He's not necessarily like creating the chaos in the same way that I feel like Kyle Korver did. Like Kyle Korver created chaos in that, you never knew what direction or where he was going to end up on the floor. And because of
Yeah.
that, I think Brad Stevens said like Kyle Korver might average 13 points, but you have to guard him like he's averaging 30 because you always had to be glued and pay attention to him. So I feel like Gradey, I don't think he's that kind of movement shooter, but I do think that he's a really good movement shooter. It's just he's moving less on the floor than a guy like Kyle Korver did, if that kind of
Yeah.
makes sense.